I'm like, oh my gosh, Stephanie, stop talking. Just stop talking.
Wow. I like when people ramble. It's like, just talk. We're here to chat and have fun.
It's like my best quality, I guess. I just actually remember a funny story. I remember my speech teacher, she used to be like, okay, we've had enough. You can sit down now. I'd be like, no, I have more. Like, I'm ready to go.
That's
yeah, like public speaking was never a problem. I was like, I got this. I don't even know what I'm talking about, but I got it. Let's go.
Are you introverted in like normal life, or like what's your personality type?
Oh, so like I'm like a lone wolf. Like
You guys are so similar.
Yeah, I feel like we are.
Very much. I could go weeks without seeing somebody and be like absolutely okay. And then I'll come out of my hole and I'll be like, okay, I'm ready to like people now. But like still on a level of like, now I need to leave because I still don't have any battery. Like, but I present really like happy-go-lucky because I am. But like when we go to the track, oh my gosh, it's just like it just switches on. Everybody's like, Stephanie, I'm like, hey, oh my gosh, da, da, da. But then I go home and I'm like, okay.
You're like, that was enough.
That was enough. Yeah. Especially doing girls ride. I would leave after like hours of talking and being like, I don't know how I did that. That was amazing. Good job. Like pat on the back for keeping going. Yeah. But it's like I am so happy that it's like, you know, it seems like I'm really extroverted. People always assume that. And then they like wonder why I just like leave or like they don't hear from me for a while. Like it's because I actually like just want to read a book.
I can turn it on and I can have a conversation when I'm like into the conversation. But if I sit around them, you know, 5 guys just having their guy conversation, I am just like, you won't hear a word out of me.
Yeah. I'll sit there like I'm the background. Just like,
yeah, like don't notice me. I'll just be here listening. It's fine. But yeah, you put me like as a host of an event and I'm turn it on. Let's go.
I think that's a great quality to have, right? It's also hard balancing act, but it's a great quality to have to be able to turn it on, but it's still genuine. But then you can like go home and be regular.
How was everyone's week? Anyone do anything
fun? Survived the rain. The rain is just such a bummer. Like I wanted to go riding. I want to go dirt bike riding this week, but the rain came, dashed our hopes. So that was a bummer. But I do stuff for fun every day. So it's like, you know, I do jujitsu every day. So every day is a fun day.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Or I do MMA or, you know, I go longboarding. So it always works out.
There's always something fun going on.
Yeah, exactly. What about you guys?
We ended up going mountain biking. So I'm just like, all right, I want to go out. And we go to this place. It's in Connecticut. It's a state park called Bluff Point. And really awesome mountain bike trails there. Just kind of like cross country, flowy, whatever. And I like had the worst ride ever. My husband's like, oh, I'm like doing the best. Like I'm having so much fun. Like I am this like the fastest I've ever been. And I'm just like, I hate my bike right now. I'm like, what is happening? Like I just got my suspension rebuilt and I cannot figure it out. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And you know, when we've had this conversation of like, you know, like friends don't let friends ride bad suspension. And it's just like, I know something's not right, but I don't know what's not right. So it was just like annoying. I just didn't have fun, but whatever. Some days. So I gotta go. I had like determined to go out again. He said my rebound was like all the way, whatever. So it was just
like up, down, sideways. I don't know.
Yeah, it was left or right, you know. I think he turned it upside down and twisted it and shook it up. No, but like I'm just like
I have the hardest time with days like that when my husband has a great time riding or whatever it is we're doing. And I'm like, okay, keep it together because he had a good day and we're not going to ruin that, even though we just had the worst ride of our lives. It's fine. Everything's okay. But really deep down, I'm like, I hate that you had a good time. I wanted to have a good time.
Yeah, and then there's like the trail. There's a trail like coming, kind of like the last trail to the exit. And it's like an awesome, fun downhill. And he's always like not too far in front of me. So I have no sense of direction at all. So I'm always picking the wrong trail, turning left when I should have turned right. And I ended up right at the road. And I'm like, I just missed the entire downhill section. So what was the, I was just like, let's just finish it off just like that.
That was the universe telling you that you didn't need any more riding. You needed to be done.
I was
Pack it
like, girl,
up.
you weren't gonna make it down that hill, so we're just
Yeah.
gonna exit you right here. Jen, you had a big week and
I
weekend.
did. I did. It was a little impromptu, spontaneous, I will say, which is right up my alley for sure. So Windy Hill was holding a full gas sprint enduro GP. They turned it into a GP. So I on Thursday night was told about it. On Friday thought about it. Friday after work, biked the course, was like, all right, if I can get through this on my mountain bike, we can get through it on my dirt bike. And so I was like, all right, I can do this. And first moto, I died. I was completely, I pulled whole shot, which was great. Was planning on that. And then gassed myself. I was exhausted. Just getting the flow for the woods, like kind of, just being able to pull your clutch at any point. Like my hand started cramping. Like,
Oh my gosh, right?
so, it was just like, I can't pull it in any longer. Funny part of this. So Cam is sweeping. So my saving grace, my security blanket, he's there, right? So he follows me my last lap as my cheerleader. I fall over and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do it. And he's like, which we've talked about. We're not 50 parents when we are parents. He's like, I didn't raise no quitter. Get up, let's go. Finish the race. Let's go. And I'm like, oh, there we go. Made it back. And then second moto was phenomenal. Found my flow in the woods and just, I could have done like 5 more laps. Cool as a cucumber. It was fun though. So there was sand track, section turn track. There was this crazy route section with a bridge that was put over it, but then it got wet and then, by everybody going through.
Yeah.
Second moto was the last one after AB and everybody through the day. So it was pretty gnarly, but it was so fun. It was so fun to try something new that I had no expectations. I told myself to just have fun, even though I was totally like psyching myself just with competitiveness and nerves. And it's weird when you're not in the environment all the time. Like from riding horses, competing, I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna eat my ice cream. It's gonna be a good day, but not in it all the time and competing and the nerves and oh my gosh, it was fun. It was really fun to put myself back into that environment. And yeah, so it was a great time, second overall. And I took Sunday and Monday. I was so sore, but it was an awesome experience. There was actually 6 women in the women's C. So Sam, P1 overall. But yeah, so I'll have to let you know, Stephanie, next time.
I know. When I saw you post that, I was thinking about going, but my husband has some health stuff happening. So I was like, you know what? He can't do it. And while he would support me, of course, like it was kind of like we've always just raced together. So I was like, you know what? I'll just get the next one. And then I saw Jen post a picture of her doing the race. And I was like, man, she didn't tell me. I would have gone. I would have raced. That would have been so much fun because I've never done an enduro GP ever, but it's always been on my bucket list because I love like the flowy wood stuff. And I love sand riding, which is Windy Hill. I was like, 2 and 2 together. Like, yes.
It was
okay.
So fun.
I'll get the next.
I think though, so 30 minute plus 2 would turn into 53 minutes for my first moto.
It's funny how they say that. They're like, if you're really good, it's 30 minutes plus 2. That's the key.
Like we were looking at doing some of the Florida Trail Series rides last winter, and I'm like, I don't think I could be on the bike that long. And like my husband has shoulder issues, like nerve issues. And he's like, I cannot be on the bike that long. And it's like, it's a long time.
It
is a long time. Like
when you're not used to it. Like when you're used to doing 15-minute motos or whatever.
Yeah. You're like, it's fine. It's not that bad, right? But then like, no, it really is that bad. You're sprinting 30 minutes.
Yeah, and especially like, just on a physical level of having to be cardio fit, but still physically strong fit. Like
Yeah.
it is weird because I mean I've been working out a lot, strength training, which some people will, go back and forth with that, but I definitely needed to get stronger. So, but mixing in cardio with mountain bikes too. But yeah, it's just different. Like with the moto side, you still need to be strong, but on the wood side, you need to be strong to paint your bike. But I don't know. It is really interesting, I guess, like how on a fitness level as well. So, but it was good. So.
It's like
I think the mindset is also there. Like when you are on for 30 minutes or more, right? 53 minutes, whatever. And you have so much stimulus, right? You're just like constantly absorbing everything around you. That's like way more tiring, I think, than most of the fitness part, because your brain is like taxed, because we don't put ourselves through that like on a regular basis. Our brains are not ready to be like, all right, we're going to be completely on and seeing every little speck everywhere for 30 minutes plus. And then like, then you're dead for the next 2 days because your brain's like, oh, we weren't ready for that. Okay, got it.
It was too, like, it's funny too you say that, because Moto 1, like I definitely, I gassed myself. Moto 2, so I only had probably 40 minutes till Moto 2. So it was really, so they ran late as well. So that kind of obviously pulled into account there, but it was nice for me because not the wait, and then race, and then hurry up and wait. Like I really I liked being so quick after, like having that 40 minutes where you didn't really get to think about it. You were just
on a
back
racing,
ready to go.
you have a lot of time. That is like a killer, right? Because you're just sitting there thinking about like, oh my gosh, I didn't do this good. That was hard. That person's really good. And it's like too much time to sit and simmer. Like having that back to back, like I could see how that would be a benefit, because and it's fresh in your brain. Like you're like, all right, that whole trail, I got it. That would be nice.
Yeah, exactly.
I know I've talked about doing an enduro race, which I mean, that is like jumping in the deep end, because those races are so much more different than motocross. So like being able to jump into like a quick rapid fire one, still get the stimulus and get the idea of what it's like to race, because that's a totally different kind of race. You're not really racing people like you are in motocross. Like you're just racing the track yourself. So I think that would be great.
The Sprint Enduro Series is 8 rounds. It goes anywhere from Georgia, South Carolina, New York, North Carolina, West Virginia. So it is more. There is a Pennsylvania one, but yeah, West Virginia, Marvin's Mountain is coming up August, and then November. So it's pretty August and then November. So it's pretty far out.
Wow, that's really spread out. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know how those are.
I hear a lot of girls love them, and they're a great, like a great entry to the woods.
It's so cool. It is so cool that there are so many different things within the sport that you can throw yourself into and try.
I know, and you guys got me like motivated to like. So I've never done a race. Everyone's always like, "Are you gonna race? You need to race. You should race. You should race." And I'm like, "No, I'm good. I'm just riding." But it's like, it would be cool to push myself. And Steph, you had a post up today of, all the things that you wouldn't have done when you were younger. And I'm like, you got me. I'm like, all right, I'm older. I'm more confident. Why am I afraid to try certain things?
Right. It's like when you're scared to go somewhere by yourself when you're younger, and then all of a sudden you're like, what? Like, why was that a thing? Like, I'm a grown adult and I'm awesome, amazing. I can go do whatever I want. I could go eat by myself. That's okay. It's like that. It's like you just kind of got to step into your power and be like, well, I've never done it. I'll probably embarrass myself. That's fine. I don't care, because life is short. So like, let's have the experience and see what happens, And almost every single time you're not going to regret it. And that's what I tell myself. Like, I'm not going to regret it, but I will regret not doing it. Like, I regret not doing that race with Jen, but I wouldn't have regretted it had I gone, even if I hadn't finished, So like, it's like one of my mantras is like, I will regret not doing it, even if it's something that's so scary.
Yeah. And I definitely feel like that's like the way to live life in my I feel like that's how I've lived life in other areas of my life. I would regret not having lived my life and traveled if I were to die tomorrow. But had I worked my entire life just to make money so I could then travel, I would regret never having traveled.
Mhm.
So it's like, I feel like you got to check off all those things that you would regret and then go do
Yeah.
the things that are like lower on the list, in my opinion, for my life.
No, I agree. I think the area that I live in, a lot of people, they like save all their money and they don't do a lot of fun things with their money. And me and my husband have always been the way, like, we know our lives are short and it could end at any moment. So like we would rather buy the dirt bikes. We'd rather, you know, pay track fees or whatever the hobby is of the week. And we'd rather do that now while we're young because we're not going to get to do that when we're older. Like we are not riding dirt bikes most likely when we're 70, right? That's probably not going to happen as much as I want that. I'm pretty sure by the time I'm 70, my body's going to be like, we could find a different hobby now, you know? And so then we would have missed out on all of this time when we're young and able to go do these things. So it's just like traveling, you know, being able to invest in your hobbies because these hobbies are so expensive. These bikes, mountain bikes, these things are so expensive. So being able to invest in it and not feel guilty that we're not investing in our future, because that is part of our future. Like being able to look back and feel content with what we did and not hit a midlife crisis because we didn't fill our life with things that genuinely made us feel good. I think that's important.
I think it's that contentment and also the friendships, the relationships, the memories, like that's fuel for life. Like that keeps you going. Yeah,
I agree. I think it's a really powerful idea.
I think sometimes breaking it down for yourself. And for example, like, okay, if you do, Jess, for example, ever want to just sign up for a race instead of, you know, going for obviously result, it's finishing the race and that way, you know, crossing off those boxes. And I think that's where what's the goal that we are trying to accomplish, and then, you know, taking out those other things. Well, hey, I don't need a win, I don't need a pull hole shot, but I do want to finish the race and I do want to have fun. Well, hey, we can do those two things.
Sometimes you just gotta tell yourself, I just gotta show up. Like I just gotta sign up, I just gotta go.
For me,
and I gotta not think about
physical.
it. I gotta turn it off and just see what happens.
I think for me, it's always been the physical risk factor. It's like when you have, you know, a spouse that races and he's putting his life on the line, you're like, well, one of us has to stay in one piece. So
100%. Somebody's got to go home and make dinner, you know?
And that's, I guess, one thing to touch on with the woods compared to like just a regular moto race. Yeah, there are other people, but, you know, being on that time and going back to kind of horses as well, like that's something I have been thinking about more because I like competing, but I don't also always like to feel bar to bar and what might happen next. And being able to, you're starting together, but you're not like on a gate. At least for me, you just kind of starting on flat ground, you know, that way you can let everybody go if you want and then be able to, and then you're in the woods like by yourself instead
fighting
of
the
just
trees.
like,
it's just the trees at that point.
just the trees instead of like everybody else like, I gotta go fast, you know. Like I feel like that part of it, which stems me into why I want to try mountain bike racing, is because it is only on a clock and you're not racing anybody else yet a clock. So I definitely hear what you mean, because
and you know, this is another thing that I've thought about in the past, because a lot of the women, actually a lot of the Massachusetts girls were racing like 2 years ago, I think it was, like time flies by. And they're like, just do it. Like, it's not, you know, for competition. It's just for fun. It's really helped me like gain my skills. But like the women's class gets mixed in with the 60 plus class of men. And so you end up, I'm trying to think, I think it's supposed to be 5 laps, I think is what the race is. And because they're so much faster, a lot of them, it ends up being like you only get 3 laps in. And then you're dealing with the risk factor of 65 plus, 60 plus guys mixed in with just super beginner women riders who are just there to ride. And then your moto gets cut short. So you just paid like $40 in entry fees to ride 3 laps. And I'm like, it just, it's like such a risk factor. And then you got girls that are rolling jumps, but guys that are jumping jumps, and you're not in an equal, safe playing field in a lot of these races. And it's just, that's what's always gotten me around here.
I totally hear you. There's reasons I haven't lined up on a moto gate. There is. And so I think there's lots of different, different avenues like within the sport itself, but I hear you. That's why a lot of the time I'd rather practice than race, because you get more riding, less money, and it's more fun.
And like you said, it's like that personal competition. I like to be competitive with myself. Like I like trying to beat my Strava times and riding against myself and trying to improve technique. I don't really care where I show up on somebody else's, on the list at the end of the day.
When me and Jen ride together, I never see it as a competition. I always see it as like, where can she push me to be better? It's always about me, which sounds so selfish now that I say it like that. But I'm like, how can she make me be better? Because she is so much better at like committing to jumps. And I ride a 2-stroke, so I have to commit like immediately, like right out of the turn or whatever. Yeah. And so I struggle with that. So if I can follow her over a jump, like she's pushing me to commit and be better. And then like when I'm going through a corner, I'm pushing her to like keep her roll speed up. And so it's like, it's never a competition. It's always like when I'm competing against myself when we're riding together, but I'm letting her push me to be better, which is what I love. And when we were racing, you don't get that. So that is kind of like a downside of racing, because in racing, it is hard to not take it more like personally competitive. Like that girl beat me, she's so much better. Sometimes that can be really hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why we do what we do, because especially riding dirt bikes, riding mountain bikes, like all of that, it's difficult and we like challenge. So why wouldn't you want to like try to be better and be selfish about it? That's why we do it, to be better.
1000%. Takes a special breed,
It does, for sure. And I love that you brought it up though. And that is one thing, riding together. It's so awesome. I love the fact of, because every time you go through a corner, Stephanie is so much faster than me, but I will make sure to hit the jumps, but I'm always like, oh my gosh, how did she go through the corner so fast? Like, and then she's like, I haven't rode for like a year. And I'm like, Stephanie, I've been riding every week and I can't. Why? Like your roll speed. It is so, every time I'm like, if you just kept your roll speed, you would hit the jump.
I know. And then I'm like, but I just can't get the jump. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's so funny. But that's why I love being able to ride with someone that we can hold space for each other, be competitive with ourselves, but not, trying to think of the word, not like resentful. Oh my gosh, she does better. Like being able to congratulate each other. And that is the part of this community that I absolutely love, is the connection, the community, and then having that energy like blossom and into a amazing friendship. So
it's fun getting out there with people who are like similar to your speed. And I think that's probably one of the most challenging things when you start riding or you're at a new track or a new spot. It's like, it is so intimidating when everyone's faster than you, and then it's not fun when everyone's slower than you. And having like equal speed and equal skilled riders like makes everything so much more fun. Not to say that anyone at a different skill level isn't fun, but I'm just saying on the track and riding, it's like, because it pushes you just that hair. I remember I went mountain biking with Christina. Oh my gosh. She's now that bike chick, but I always call her that vegan chick when I have conversation about her. But went mountain biking in Sedona with her, and she was just a little bit faster than me. But like, she would do that little drop off, and she was just that little bit faster. Where I'm like, oh, where is she going faster? How is she getting faster? Because if I'm just riding with my husband, I'm riding by myself all the time. So it's cool to see people like, all right, how are you getting that speed in that corner? How are you pumping that, whatever, that roll or that jump? So it's like, it's so cool. It's motivating for sure. Steph, let's jump into a quick rapid fire question segment.
Oh boy. Okay, bring it on.
What's your favorite track snack?
Applesauce pouches all day. Like I struggle eating, especially when it's hot, because it gets so humid here in the summertime. When it's like 100 degrees and it's humid, I cannot eat. Like anything dry makes me want to like gag. So I will eat applesauce pouches, especially the ones with the vegetables in them, because that's like literally the only thing I can get down. That's it all day. I can do that all day.
Somebody once was talking about how they eat baby food, and I was like, that's so smart. Like, that's such a good, healthy food. Like, mashed butternut squash, like, whatever. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm going to buy some and have some. And I was like, all right, that's gross.
You're like, the idea was better than the actual thing. Okay.
That's a great idea. Applesauce, I can do applesauce.
Yeah.
If you could live in any country that wasn't the United States, which country would you choose to live in?
Australia. There's so many opportunities to do outdoor things in Australia, like because I love anything on wheels. So I could go four-wheeling with my Land Cruiser. I could ride my dirt bikes. And the Aussies, they ride like they are madmen.
Yes.
So it would just be so much fun all the time. Also deadly, but I mean, those like scary animals that's besides the point. It's all about the moto, the four-wheeling, the camping, like all of that.
What is your favorite gear?
I wear O'Neill gear all day because I really like their ventilation, and I have a hard time finding gear that fits my big thighs because, I power lift and I just have a giant rear end and a giant set of tree trunk thighs. So it's really the only gear that I found that can fit my legs while still being able to fit my knee braces and feel comfortable and not be like too long. Because that's always the struggle I have is like, if I get men's pants that are going to fit me everywhere else, they're so long that they like scrunch up in my boots, and then it's just a nightmare because my boots already barely fit as it is because women's calves are bigger than men's calves. So my boots can barely strap up as it is. And I do not need any more things ruining that for me.
Sub question, knee pads or knee braces?
I wear Mobius knee braces because I tore both my meniscus in a stupid pit bike racing. I wasn't even racing. I was racing around my yard with my husband, and I tipped over and I tore my right meniscus, and then like there was a partial tear in my left meniscus. And so I just don't play around with that anymore. Because like now that I'm getting older and I'm doing like other hobbies that are really like joint heavy, like I'd rather just be safe than sorry. So I go with the braces because any rotation, that's what's going to get me. So if I dab my foot, I know my knee braces are going to keep that dab from like wrenching my foot and tearing it further.
What is the best piece of advice that you've ever gotten when it comes to handling riding fears / like boundaries?
Because I like to learn really fast, and I remember I would get like really upset when I was not improving fast enough and I wasn't able to keep up with the people that I wanted to keep up. I think like the best advice I got was that I need to remember that my journey has started way later than their journey. So I need to keep that in mind as I progress. They've earned their speed and I need to earn my speed. And once that sunk in, I was like, oh, that hit hard. Like I haven't earned that speed yet. Like at that point, I think I've been riding like 3 years, and I was like, I just want to jump jumps and I want to be really fast and I want to keep up with the guys, but like I hadn't earned it yet. Like I hadn't put in the work. I hadn't put in the hours. I didn't know how to move my body like that yet. And I think once that sunk in, I was able to feel more confident in what I'm actually capable of doing at the moment, knowing that one day it will get me there.
Speaking on that, when did you start riding? Refresh my memory and everyone listening.
I started riding in 2016, which feels like not that long ago, but that's so long ago. Oh my gosh, time flies.
You can give us an estimate if you want, but how old were you approximate then in 2016?
Okay, that's even worse because now I'm like, now you're making me do math.
8 years ago.
So I had to have been like 23 maybe. So I wasn't like young, but I was still kind of young, I had just like lost a bunch of weight, and that's what got me riding. That was like my goal was to lose 80 pounds, and because I wanted to ride with my husband and I wanted to be able to handle it. So after I lost that weight, I happened to have a friend who was like, hey, I have this like farm bike that's stock. It's 94. It's never even had its wheel changed. Like the tire is exactly the same. Like everything is stock. Are you interested in it? We're just going to sell it for super cheap. And I was like, yes, let's do that. And then I fell in love. I was terrible, but I fell in love, you know?
And that is what started the journey.
Yeah, that's what started the journey. And then like not knowing anybody else that rode dirt bikes other than my husband is what started like me wanting to have a community of women around me, and like what made me be a lot more friendly at the track, like trying to make friends, because it is a really lonely thing when you are like learning as an adult. And you don't have that same support when you're a kid. You just go out with the other kids, and then it's like, oh, look at all of us. We're all cute kids and we're riding together. But when you're a woman, you get stuck in the kids class, and there can be a little bit of shame that comes with that, because you're like, excuse me, I am a woman and I don't need to be in the kids class. And then there's usually not a lot. There's usually like maybe one or two. And so it can be really isolating. And that started me out on the journey of like trying to find more women, trying to befriend people, because like I wanted to have a fun time and not just a good time, if that makes sense.
Did your track, when you first started riding, offer different practices where you could go out on the track and feel safe? Or
most of the time, the tracks that I went to, they were open practice because there was not enough people to have a separated practice. Because at that point in time, like all of the local tracks were kind of run down. And we didn't really want to we wanted to ride all the time. So we didn't want to have to drive like over an hour and a half to go ride and then go ride again tomorrow, another hour and a half drive. We were trying to keep it tight. So we would go to like more of the rundown tracks, like our local track Dreamville, which used to be called Wide Open, and it used to be unprepped. But it was a great track to learn on. But it would be open practice, and there'd be like maybe 15 riders. And so like most of the time, I never saw a single woman ride. Like I honestly was the only woman that rode for probably the first like 3 years of dirt bikes that I had seen, because I hadn't traveled to the bigger tracks that were having separated practices. And so funny enough, like Sam Farr was probably the first woman that I saw ride faster than slow, right? She's so fast, but like I'd only ever seen like people my speed at that point, like beginners. And I remember seeing her and I was like, women can ride that fast? Like that's unreal. Like I want to be her when I grow up, even though I was already grown up. I was like, I want to be her because that's so inspiring. Like she didn't let her gender hold her back. Like she is out there with the boys better than the boys. Like, and she's so sweet. She's so kind. Like I was like, oh, that is like the ideal. And then as soon as I like realized, hey, there's one fast girl, I was like, okay, well, like, where can I find more? And I made it a point to like search them out. Not even fast girls, just all the girls. I was like, where can I find more? Girls that literally just started, don't know how to ride a dirt bike. I got you. Let's work together. I can ride with you. I would love that. Like, you can ride with me. Like, let's learn. People that were fast with me. I was like, will you let me like pick up things from you? Can I follow behind you for a little bit? Like, I made it a mission to find them, because I have this like calls to like, right? The more you surround yourself with these people, the more you find them, then the more abundance you're going to find eventually. And it's also like reinforcing ideas. So like if I'm sitting here thinking I'm the only girl, I'm just reinforcing that idea. But if I go out and I find more people, I'm like, wow, there's more. And then it's just, consistently filling that idea.
Did you have any insecurities in reaching out to women? I feel like Jen and I were actually just having this conversation last week of moto. So often it feels like moto women tend to be very seclusive at the track.
Yes. 100%.
So how did you overcome that and just start talking to people? I think everybody wants to be talked to.
Yeah.
But there's just insecurities.
Part of it was understanding that most of the women and the girls, they are not trying to not talk to you. They just like, it's what has been for so long. That's all they know is to go back to their moto van, to go back to their truck, sit, chill, go back out, right? There's not like a lot of like chit chatting or like going to like find people out, because the dudes don't really do that. They park next to each other and that's their people, but they're not really like mingling.
Right.
So and I am an introvert so deeply, and it was really, really hard for me to be okay with potentially embarrassing myself and like draining my social battery at the track, because I'm already tired from riding and like learning and all that stimulus. But it was really important to me to try anyway. So I have this really bubbly personality that is really dumb and friendly. Like I'm like a golden retriever, and I will make everybody feel good, because like I'm not afraid of embarrassing myself in the moment. It's the afterwards that I'm like, ooh, that was really dumb that you did that. But in the moment, I'm like whatever I say is probably they're gonna find me more endearing, and they're gonna want to talk to me because I'm not afraid of embarrassing myself. So they can feel more comfortable responding, or if they see me next time, they'll come over and they'll talk to me and they'll initiate, because they know that they're safe. Because if I am an idiot from the first get-go, like just an absolute weirdo, then like they know no matter what they do, they're good. Like they are great, you know?
It's like set the bar.
The afterthought.
Set the bar
Exactly.
low, and then they have
It is.
nothing to feel bad about.
It 100% is subconsciously. Like I remember one time there was this girl who I knew was coming to the track because her dad had reached out to me, and I thought that was so sweet. She was like 13, and she was feeling really self-conscious about being there. And he was like, "Would you just come over and introduce yourself?" And I was like, "Oh, of course, that'd be great." And I'm not tall enough to touch on my bike. And I'm sure as any girl who's not tall enough to touch on their bike understands, when you come to a stop too quickly, you fall over, because our legs cannot always catch our bikes. They're so heavy. So in my mind, I was like, this would be an instance where it would be okay to do that on purpose. Like I didn't really do it on purpose, but I was like, oh, if it happens, it's going to happen. So like I rode up pretty quick, and I like hit the brakes real hard, and I didn't catch myself, and I tipped over, and that girl laughed so hard. But then she felt so comfortable, because she was like, man, if I saw that girl who can ride fast tip over in front of me and then not feel embarrassed or feel bad, like no matter what I do, I'm good, I'm safe, I'm comfortable. And that's like my goal always, is to make people feel safe and comfortable and happy, you know? So it just went hand in hand.
So meeting women, being able to kind of help them or ride with them as well. I do know that you did have a community at one point, of course. How has it felt continuing to ride even when you dissolve the community? Do you still feel like you want to help? And
I do so much, but at the same time, it was really hard to go to the track when I just wanted to ride. And I didn't necessarily want to be like a figurehead at that, like on that day. Like most of the time, I mean, I'm so happy to see like girls riding and to talk to them and to ride with them and to have that camaraderie. But sometimes it was like, I just wanted to go ride and check out, and just kind of like maybe my mental health was dipping and I needed like a boost. And that's why we ride dirt bikes, right? Or why we ride mountain bikes. And it was really hard in those moments. And so I miss it a lot. I miss being able to talk to girls for like a united reason, not just like randomly like, oh, hey, I saw you were riding, but like, hey, I have this community and I would love for you to join, because, you know, I think it's so powerful when we come together. And I miss that, because that was really soul filling for me.
So we were living at a track in Florida for like 3 months. I think we were there in 2021. And I can definitely relate to that, because there'd be people coming in, or people that knew me, or people that saw my bike, you know, with the Ratchet Society on it. And it was like, it was my job 24/7 to make girls feel good, or be that personality that I don't want to say portray, but that I put on for the community. Yeah. And I'm just like, my husband's like, yeah, but that's what you got to do. Like, you want to do this, you got to do it. And I'm just like, I just want to lock myself in my camper so I don't have to talk to anybody right now. Like, I live here 24/7. It's like, I'm not a celebrity and I'm not relating it to that level, but can you imagine like, a celebrity that like, they're like, yeah, I just had a bad day, I'm just tired, and you can't even go out in public. Like, I can't imagine it. But you have to turn off. Like, you can't be helping people 24/7. Like,
Yeah.
it's tough.
And then
So-
like if I'm having a bad day, like I don't want to put that on people. Like I don't want to be like brush somebody off because I'm having a bad day. Maybe I had a bad ride day. Maybe I'm just not feeling good. And then I brush somebody off. And then that is portrayed as like this girl with this community is brushing me off. That community is not for me. And I did not want that. So
Right.
there's a lot of like hidden pressures that I think are really easy to overlook when you just like look at an Instagram page and you're like, oh, wow, that's so cool. Like, you know, that must be really fun. But sometimes it can be really hard, especially when your mental health is dipping, which we all experience with like our personal life. I mean, we ride whatever it is that we're riding to feel good. And so like the days, maybe there's like bad weather and we haven't got to ride for a while and we don't have a lot of other outlets. So our mental health is dipping. And then all of a sudden you're expected to still be able to be on and be good. Sometimes that I found that really hard. Like being on command or on demand. That was hard.
Definitely life transitions make it difficult to feel like you're fully showing up authentically the way that you want to be showing up.
Yeah.
Speaking of mental health, and I mean, you only have to go into whatever you want to go into, but I know you did kind of step away from social media, but you've kind of come back and posted here and there. But I, from the outside, feel like I've seen such a transformation in you, like mentally, hobby-wise, physically, like you have really, I feel like you have like stepped into like you. And it's like so cool to see from the outside as someone that literally doesn't have contact with you on a daily basis. But like your style has changed, your hair has changed, like you are like freaking on fire. I feel like what has that whole, like what, not necessarily what happened, like you don't have to share everything, but I just mean like what were you kind of feeling? And then how did you start to make this transition into like dirt biking and jujitsu and really like finding even more community and diving into even more of who you are?
Well, you're right. Normally I have bangs, but I didn't have time to wash my hair and my bangs stick out like this when they've been back from working out. So normally it is bangs, not midlife crisis bangs, but like it really is. It was a total transformation. That was like the final key of like finding this like rebel version of myself that's not afraid to step outside of the boundaries that society sets for us. Like I did make a post about this on social media earlier today because it's been on my mind, but like just realizing how short life is and seeing some of the people that I was surrounding myself with and the kinds of fluff that they would put in their life to just pass the time and not really like enjoy their life, it kind of made me take a step back and really look at like who I was presenting myself as and what I was doing with my time. And for a while it was just passing time. Like I was just working to get to the weekend so I could go ride my bike and then, you know, rinse and repeat. And then I just had this awakening of like I want more before I can no longer have more. Like I'm only going to be physically capable of riding dirt bikes for so long. So I want to get out there and I want to do it, or I want to try all these new hobbies and like experience everything that I can possibly experience before I can't anymore, because it will come. Like we all know it's going to come, but we never know when, and we never know, like sometimes it's so soon and we just don't know. And I would hate to be caught off guard and wish that I had stepped into like my power and been exactly who I am on the inside, regardless of what people think I am or what society says I should be. Like I'm just at the point where like I really don't care. Like I just want to be happy, and being happy is being 100% authentically me. So it's like I have a million plants in my house even though people think I'm crazy. I go do jujitsu and I like, you know, try to break people's arms that I love. I'm like, "Oh, I love you, but oop, there's your arm. Ha. Okay, armbar, got you." Like, you know, I do all these things, but it's what fills me with joy. So it's like everybody has their own thing, and I would never want to be like, "Oh, well, that thing isn't good as mine," or "That's not as cool." But it's like whatever makes you shine. You know, that's it. And that's just where I'm at. I finally found the things that make me shine. I found the style that makes me shine. Like, you know, not afraid to just wear whatever I want. And I don't know, it's really powerful once you find that and you're not apologizing anymore.
And how did you find it? I feel like that in itself is such a crazy journey to find what actually makes you happy, as stupid as it is.
It is. I mean, it was a really, like, it was a lot. I went through a lot of hobbies that were good, but weren't really it for me. Like, I
Would you like share?
I did CrossFit for a while because I am so competitive. And like, I know I'll never be like a competitive dirt bike racer. Like, I could probably make it into Loretta's if I tried really, really hard, and then I would be last, you know, like, and that no, I don't want that. So like, I wanted to do something where I could be like genuinely good, competitive, and then something that is, because I have this like crazy need to work really hard and to prove to myself that I can do it, which is probably why we all ride the things we ride, is we want to prove to ourselves that like, hey, we can do that. So I started doing CrossFit, and then like my body was like, no, that's too aggressive. Like, your joints hurt all the time. Like, and then I was starting to compare myself to others and really feel like I had to perform every workout, and I wasn't enjoying that. But it did show me that I am capable of so much more than I realized, which is right on par with dirt bikes. Dirt bikes has always shown me that I am capable of picking up my bike when it's super hot and I'm tired and I just had an gnarly crash, and like, I can still go and I can still do it. So it was kind of like, it had a little bit of that inkling. And then I dabbled a lot in little things. I did a lot of Olympic lifting. I did powerlifting, which I still love and do today. And then I found jujitsu through my powerlifting, or my Olympic lifting coach. And I've just fell in love because the similarities with racing are unparalleled. It's something I can do every day and still get the feeling of riding dirt bikes. And that's nice because it's not always accessible. Like, I can't always go out and ride my bike when I want to, but every single night I can go to class and I can work on my jujitsu, which is, I think, the final puzzle piece for me, was just finding one more thing similar to this rad sport I like to do, but that I can do more often, and it can really like show me where my weaknesses and my strengths are.
I feel like I've been going through that in some ways, of really like, all right, what am I looking for? Like, what is the void? And like you said, what is the void, but yet accessible enough? Because there's so much I want to do, but I can't just go. I live 4 hours from the mountains. Like, I don't know a single person that hikes. So like, if I want to set some crazy challenge of climbing some mountain or doing some overnight trip, I'm just like, I guess a bit of it is fear of, you know, all right, I got to find that group. I got to, you know, really put the work in to do it. And then, you know, little things like, all right, hosting events. And I'm just like, do I have what it takes to show up for an event while running a community, while having a business, while having a husband? And I'm like, I don't know if I have the energy for that. It's really interesting finding really that void of like, what am I trying to fulfill? What is it that I'm looking for and I need? And then finding the thing that actually fits it.
One big part too that you said is the consistency and the availability. And that is something even I as well struggled with, coming from horses. You are at the barn every single day. Yeah. I was competing training, so we were riding 5 or 6 days a week, you know. I was there.
Like, my horses were outside my door. I had a farm a half mile down the road from the age of 6 to 18. Yes. And then I had 5 horses at my house. And when I wanted to, I would jump on and just go for a trail ride. And then they're gone. Get that reset. And then I'm like, what now? What now?
Exactly. And that itself, like, dirt bikes, the tracks aren't always open 24/7, not when you're off work or when you have the free time. And for me too, finding something that I could do that would feed your soul and make you feel good, and while everyday life and everything, that's kind of mountain bikes has brought that a little bit for me, being able to go after work on your own time. But I think it's really important, you know, and if you're feeling that, like, I need more, instead of being like, oh, I don't need more. Like there's a reason,
Yeah.
and to chase that and to like not let go of that feeling, because I feel like for you, Stephanie, if you didn't keep trying different things, you wouldn't be this badass MMA person.
I used to be so afraid to try things, but the older I get, the more I realize that that's like the silliest thing to be afraid of, is because like everybody starts somewhere. There's always going to be a beginner. It's always going to be you. And like, what if that thing makes you so happy, but you're too scared to try it? You know, that's what goes through my head. What if, like, you could be missing out on something amazing?
I've like had this thought running through my head lately of like nothing lasts forever. And
Oh,
you can look at that two ways. You can look at that as like, this moment is going to be forever. So like you were saying, take advantage of the time you have and the youth you have and the energy you have, but also the newness of something isn't, you know, the uncomfortable isn't going to last forever either.
Yeah.
So like,
That's
just get it out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's gonna be there no matter when you do it, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you do it now or if you do it a year from now when you finally decide to do it. You're still gonna go through those feelings, and it's better just to get it over with now and start that journey now while you're feeling it, instead of wishing and dreaming and wanting something. It's like I'm a big believer in, like, you know, take the moment now. So just do it. Like Nike says, just do it, guys.
Because we will put it in our heads and make it seem like such a big thing instead of just doing it. And
it becomes like a mountain, right? You're like, oh, this thing is unclimbable. Like, I have so many excuses to hold me back. Like, I can't because my family or work life, I don't have time. I don't have time is the biggest one. People don't go to the gym, but then yet people still find their way in there. So it's like these excuses, while they can be valid sometimes, like they're just holding us back from really finding like our true selves.
I know that you're a mom. How do you juggle being a mom, being a wife, being into action sports, and juggling it all, even when you have the risk of potentially getting hurt and needing to still be there for your family?
Oh my gosh, it's so hard. So last year I broke my hand, and that was my first big injury from any of the sports that I've done. Because I've always been like, well, yeah, in jiu-jitsu, I was doing a tournament, and in my first match, I broke my hand, and it was like a silly little, like a little thing, right? But it ended up being a big thing at the end, and having to still try to juggle all of those things you were saying was such a challenge, because like I was no longer able to get my adrenaline in that I had become dependent on for my well-being. And I'm trying to take care of other people, and I'm getting to watch my husband go ride and my daughter go ride. And that was a struggle when I was hurt. So now that I've gotten hurt and I've had to go through that, I'm a lot more cognizant of my safety, which is hard when you're doing dangerous sports, because then that holds you back. And then you have to like work that much harder on your mental ability to overcome these obstacles. So that's been really hard, but I'm really fortunate that my daughter now likes to ride dirt bikes, and she sometimes likes to do jujitsu, but she doesn't really like sweaty people all over her. So like, and she likes to do MMA because that's the other thing I've started to do. And then my husband really obviously loves dirt bikes. He's what got me into it. And then we also go four-wheeling with our pickup trucks, and we each have one, husband and wife trucks. So all of these things we do as a family, and I think that's really the best way for us to juggle it, because if it was just a me thing, it would be impossible. Like, there would be a lot of resentment building between, like, in my marriage for how much time I'm spending away and doing these things. And so I think it's really important that, like, even if my daughter doesn't want to ever race, she doesn't ever want to like go fast or jumps, although right now she is looking at getting a bigger bike because she does want to jumps. So like, I'm like, oh, okay, yay. But that doesn't matter to me as long as she's out at the track and finding some way to have fun with us as a family together. And then we just kind of like roll with it after that, you know, whatever happens, happens.
And I feel like I find, how do I say this? I was going to say moto couples, but it's also like football couples, like people who have the similar interest, I feel like have long, happy marriages. Like, we're celebrating our 14th wedding anniversary today. And it's like, I feel like so much of that. Thank you. How am I old enough for that? 14 years.
That's okay. I'm coming up on my 14 years too, so we are
You
old
are?
together.
Yeah, heck yeah. But see, I feel like having those similar interests is being able to be supportive of your spouse and understand their needs. And whether you want to or not, like, be there, go to the track. And the more fun that you can make and have with it, the more happy everybody is. And but I feel like the women who are like, God, you're going riding again. Like,
Yeah.
it's
And it's a big bummer for the guys because, you know, they would much rather have their wives like into it. Maybe not even riding, but just like finding a way to enjoy time at the track. Because I know that when I've met wives that come and they just like make the day of it, I'm like, man, that's so cool. Like,
absolutely.
I wonder if I would do that. I'm not sure if I would do. Like, I feel like I would, but what if I was like, oh, no, I don't want to spend my time at the track. Like, I have so much respect for those women because they're not riding, they're not getting that adrenaline, they're hot, you know, they're probably bored, but they're finding a way to be supportive and then finding a way to make it fun for their kids, or like, I think that's so cool.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of women like now having kids, they wouldn't go when their husbands race, but now that their kids are into it, they're like, oh, now like I'm into it. Now, oh, it's such a great family event, which is awesome to really, you know, bring the family together. But yeah, it's tough because I find motocross, like my husband was a professional racer, so like it's intense. Like they're obsessive and they can't help but live it, breathe it, talk it like 24/7. And it's such a selfish sport. Like any sport that you're a professional at is a selfish sport. And learning to balance each other's needs in that is I don't know. I don't want to say it's a challenge. It's not that it's a challenge, but an awareness. You have to have an awareness for it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it makes you good at marriage because if you can juggle it in times where you're stressed out, you're tired and hungry, whatever the thing is that you're feeling like in that moment while you're at the track or you're on the mountain, like being able to take that into like real life problems is really helpful, like really helpful.
I personally feel like it's crucial in a sense of having a like-minded partner in some way, because if you're meeting your partner when they already have these likes and interests, well, you're not changing them. You're not going to change it if you don't want to go to the track and he still does. So
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, women outside of the sport of finding a love for it in some way, shape, or form is crucial, because you are going to resent them in some case, or now you don't get your Saturday or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's one thing Cam and I based in the beginning. Our relationship was traveling to tracks every single weekend, riding somewhere new, being able to go on adventures, or hey, you want to go hiking, and just having that like adventure partner. At least for me personally, I wouldn't be able to have someone like completely out of it. I need that like adventure minded, like-minded person to be able to go on adventures together instead of separate. Because I feel like when you're dealing with a struggle of a day or an injury or whatever it might be, you can relate to them, or at least help them, support them, instead of being completely out of it and being like, I don't know, sucks you can't ride your bike for 6 months. Too bad, buddy.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that's so vital. And it also helps you form like an actual friendship with your spouse. I think like in this day and age, it's really easy to not really be like friends. Like you're friends, like you're friendly, everything's great and happy. But when you have like a shared hobby and you're spending money, time, and you're investing so much of yourself in this hobby alongside your person, then that friendship, you know, really bonds you. So it's like a really strong way to stay together and to stay happy.
Having that supportive person that is there for you and can hold space for you is so important in life, in action sports and everything in general, because finding a partner who doesn't push you to become your best self, or even on your hard days of picking you up when you're down, it's the same thing. And I will be honest, I'm in the healthiest relationships I ever have been, and I am mentally, physically the healthiest I have ever been in as well. And I do thank that from my partner as well, but I wouldn't be I wouldn't be here without, everything that he's helped me through. But it
Yeah.
is it is absolutely, I think it's absolutely 100% crucial to have that partner, and then vice versa, having the relationships like this community to bring it all together. And then all those puzzle pieces, I feel like then click in.
Jen, I gotta ask a random question. Do we have a date set for the wedding?
Oh my gosh, no. We do not. And
I'm
is
like,
so funny.
I keep thinking of this and I haven't asked you yet.
Yes. So we got engaged 12/11/22, 3 years ago. It's okay.
Oh my gosh, has it already been 2 years?
A year and a half.
So
A year and a
fast.
half. All right. So backstory is, being from Massachusetts, all of her family is up there, but it's so ungodly expensive to have weddings up there. And it's like, hey, how many bikes do you want to buy with this darn wedding for one night, really? And so having supportive friends who have been through weddings as well, they were like, you guys need to do this on you, like for you and only you. So we were like, does it make sense to do it up north? So there's no date set yet, but I feel like now that we've started to be like, hey, we're going to not people please, we're probably going to do it in the South. The next part is, I am neurotic with dates, and I don't want a 2025. I don't want 2025 as the number. And then if I go to 28, then if I did it August, then I could have 8, but then it's all the way 4 years later. So that's my train of thought on all of this and how neurotic I actually am.
Backyard wedding. Let's do it tomorrow.
Yep.
Well,
I
I
gotta
totally,
get in.
Pizza.
I know.
Order a tent. Get tables. Been there, done that. Let's go.
Exactly. Luckily, we have some great friends. Like, we have a friend who is a DJ, so that's awesome on that case. And, like, there are some things that kind of come together. So yeah, definitely want to do more.
I got you.
Low key. Stephanie here. So yeah, we're definitely set on some cases. I feel like it was just like maybe booking the venue, but I wasn't gonna, pay for 10 dirt bikes for a venue because it is disgusting, the prices of them.
Oh yeah.
So pretty much it's just gonna be a big party, with some rad people.
Yep.
It's in the works, slowly but surely.
Claps for you.
Steph, what makes you a rad chick?
Oh, that's a hard question, because that's like so conceptual, right?
Yeah.
I think like being authentic and not being afraid to venture outside of the boundaries that are preset for us. Like, I think any girl who does anything that society deems as like maybe not a girl thing, like automatically, it doesn't matter if she's good or not, like she could just start doing that thing automatically. I think she's a rad chick, because it takes a lot of guts to step outside of that box and be like, I'm gonna give it a go. So I think that automatically makes somebody a rad chick. So I think I fit that box. I fit that pretty well, I guess, because I'm not afraid to do a man thing all the time. Like all the time. Like MMA, man, I got that. That's not just for men. Whatever.
It is interesting. Like dirt bikes, longboarding, skateboarding, MMA, like all masculine activities, but you have definitely come into your feminine.
Yeah.
So much as a woman.
Which
like
I think makes it so much better. I think sometimes like a lot of the girls that are drawn to like dirt bikes and BMX, we start out in our a very masculine place. Like we want to be just as good as the boys and we want to be taken seriously. And then I think as we grow, we find that like we can still do those things and also be feminine, not necessarily girly, but like really own being a woman and what makes us good as women. Because there are a lot of things that I'm better at because I'm a woman than like my husband would be on a dirt bike. Like my body positioning is naturally so much better than his is, because like as a woman, like we work on our body, we work on our posture, like we are more aware of ourselves in space, like just naturally because of like childbirthing and all that nonsense. So it's like naturally I'm better at certain things, but when you first start out, you're you're not really told that. You're told like this is a man's sport, this is what men are good at. And I think as you learn that like you do have power as a female, even in a man dominated sport, that then it becomes really powerful, because then you're like, oh, I can do this and I can still be feminine. So this is great. Like, it's cool.
I was kind of, Jen and I were semi having this conversation, but we were talking about the women's free ride movement, and Whistler just had their like women's free ride.
Yeah.
And just like doing more exploration into women's free ride. And I came across a podcast and they were talking about the Red Bull Rampage and Formation, which is kind of like, I don't want to say it's the women's Red Bull Rampage, because that is definitely not what they created it to be whatsoever. But it's like women have been in these sports for so long. Yeah. But what like a big thing that they're working to do right now is just make it mainstream, like make it a thing. And I feel like that's where we're at. Like there's plenty of women that have ridden motorcycles, ridden dirt bikes, just as long as men, but like making it normal, making it mainstream is kind of like the movement that they were after in free ride. And it really hit me and made it like it made me understand the importance of putting it out there. It's not so much like, look at me, I'm empowered. It's like, no, can we just make this a normal thing?
Yeah, like I just want to ride the thing. I want to race the thing. Like, why does my gender have to have anything to do with it? Like, I just want to ride, and I want to ride. I don't want it to be watered down, and I don't want it to be dumbed down. You know, I want a challenge. And I think sometimes that is a downside right now. We're seeing as we're trying to integrate women's sports more, is that naturally they're like, well, I mean, you can't really do that thing, so we're gonna lessen it a little bit, so that way, you know, you can give it a go. But like, I mean, we're seeing so many women that can go over those boundaries, so I don't think that we need to do that anymore. Like Vicky Golden can do a backflip, right? Like boundaries are put in place to be broken, if you ask me. Like those things don't matter. Like let's push those boundaries. Let's make women like in the front row. Like we do these rad things too. We break our bodies. We put our blood, sweat, and tears into it. No different than the man. So it's like, you know, we deserve to have that opportunity. And I thought it was so rad watching the free ride. I was like, man, those girls crushing it. Like it was so impressive to watch them do something that we really haven't got to see before. Like that was awesome.
So I was listening to this podcast on Pink Bike, and they were talking about the start of Formation and how they just wanted, they weren't trying to be the Red Bull Rampage. Like they weren't trying to compete. They weren't trying to be a part of it. They were just simply like, oh, cool, Red Bull Rampage just happened. We have all of our contracts in place, so we don't need to risk our contracts, our futures, like that trip to Australia I have coming up next week. I don't need to risk any of that for the Red Bull Rampage. But it would be really cool to head up to the Red Bull Rampage after the fact and just like do part of a line and build out my own line. And so that was what like Red Bull Formation started off as they were explaining, which I thought was so cool. And they didn't want media there. They had very select media. They did not want fans, because they just wanted to give women the opportunity to do the free ride with no pressure, to be able to think and be clear in their minds and be able to do it. And I was like, man, that like creates such a different conversation when you can actually understand the reason for these things. And then, they were talking about joining and having women on Red Bull Rampage, which they are this year. It's finally been announced. Woo! But Red Bull loved the idea, and Red Bull wanted to make something bigger of Formation. But they're like, we don't want it to be that, because then what? What's the next step? We don't have a next step.
Yeah.
Well, like we want this to almost be like the intro, and you do one of these competitions and then you get to go to Rampage. Like, and it was just like really cool. And so they really were working to tweak the media aspect of it more than anything for the last year, which is why it didn't happen last year, which is why Formation didn't happen last year, because they pushed it back, trying to like figure out the media and Red Bull and everything. And then they didn't quite come to an agreement. And then the announcement gets made this year with Rampage. But it was an interesting perspective of like, yeah, so many of these women aren't doing these events because we don't quite have this space. Like and the other thing they mentioned is like Red Bull Rampage has been happening for over, I think this is its 24th year this year, 23rd year, 20 plus, over 20 years. So that's 20 years in the making. And it's like, what can these women's sports be in 20 years?
If we put in the groundwork now, then it's going to be amazing, you know?
Yes. And it was like such a different perspective on all of it. Because, I mean, they have these contracts for these races. They have these sponsors put in place that they can't risk injury, finances, like contracts, just to go off and do this, which is why most of them had no interest and didn't even pay attention to it for so long.
So prior to this, and I was not familiar with it prior, and I'm not sure if you have the answer or not. Did women at all prior just compete with the men at all, or were women not allowed to compete within it prior?
Rampage?
Yeah.
There were no women, no. I don't think they were allowed to. I don't know that for a strict answer, but I don't believe, because just this year is the first time they announced a women.
Yeah, Crankworks did slope style for the first time. Now there was stuff with the men that happened, which then personally, in my opinion, it was phenomenal to see slopestyle Crankworks women, and there was no men whatsoever. And it would be really cool, I personally think, for the sport level of having it so that there could maybe be a day for the women or maybe a day for the men. I don't know how that would work with media sponsors marketing, but really kind of being able to separate it, but still have the same features and not then watering it down, dumbing it down or anything, but keeping it so women can have that, hold their own space along with the men. But it will be amazing to see how it continues to evolve with marketing, with more people getting into it, with social media kind of bringing it. I'm excited. When I honestly saw, first of all, slope style, I literally jumped up and down. I was like, oh my God, I have to watch the whole thing. And it was so fun because what is it? There's also Crankwork Queen or something of that, where they do like a 3 split between like downhill, pump track, and there was one other. It was just so cool. So I think it's fun just to see the women itself having their own event and not mixed in with the men as well.
And like I said, like, all right, if you look at the men that have been doing this for Rampage, for example, for over 20 years, like, I mean, there's so much that's changing, like X Games. And especially with all of these young kids coming in with as good as they are in every sport, who knows what could happen in like 20 years and how much everything will shift. But point being, getting back to just like making it just normal. Like, yeah, I ride dirt bikes. Like, it's not a big deal. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's so funny is when I'm at jujitsu or I'm at my MMA class, they'll be like, oh, like what, sometimes we'll have time and they'll be like, oh, what do you like to do? I'm like, oh, I like to race dirt bikes. Like, I think it's super fun. And they're like, that's weird. And I'm like, is it? Because we're in here punching each other. So you're trying to tell me that this is weird that I like to ride dirt bikes? Like, I think that's totally normal. And they're like, no, I've never met a woman who rides a dirt bike. Like, that's so weird. And I'm like, it's not weird. But it is. It's not like normal yet, you know, or BMXing and mountain biking. That's all those things aren't normal yet.
Right. And people don't understand what it actually is. People are like, well, you just like ride a bike. Like, you just.
Oh my gosh, that's my favorite thing ever. I'm like, let me tell you, it is the hardest workout you'll ever have in your life.
Like, I'm the slowest girl out there, and let me tell you, it is exhausting. So we thought it would be fun to like start to hear maybe some of our tips, some of our guest tips when it comes to riding and whatnot. But question for jiu-jitsu, is there like one move, jiu-jitsu, MMA, that like you think every woman should know for everyday life?
Okay, so my first thought was like throwing a punch, because there is a right and wrong way. But I think some of the my favorite thing. This is also my favorite thing to do is like, when you get put into like a very bad situation as a woman, right? There's like a man trying to go between your legs. There's a way that you can choke him with your legs. And honestly, that's my favorite thing to teach women when they come to like our women's class is like, if this happens to you, you have a great defense. Like you just literally take your legs and you are going to wrap it around his neck and you just choke him. And it's like, it sounds silly, but most practical self-defense version of that would be that, like, because you never know, you could find yourself in that kind of situation, and in the moment it's scary. You don't have like the thought patterns to work through it, so just knowing that there's like one thing you could do in that moment, in that last stage, like that's what I would say. That or throwing a punch, you know.
Yeah, because women only have so much upper body strength, but that lower body strength has some power.
Exactly. And a lot of the things like you learn when you first start going is that you're never going to compete with a man like upper body wise. Like you're never going to be able to overpower him. He will overpower you all day. But like we usually have like better lower bodies. So like being able to use that to our advantage and also to create space. Like that's another big thing is creating space. Like when you're in a bad situation, self-defense wise, like the closer you are, the worse it is for you. Like then what if they have a knife, you know, or like what if then they can get their hands around your neck, right? So it's like any way that you can create space and then like beat feet and run, that's like 100% like what you should do. Like you should never try to fight the person. Like if I were ever to get attacked, I'm not going to fight that person even though I know how and I know I could knock that person out, but I'm going to try to create space and run because the chances of him getting a knife out, like that's a good chance that I don't know how to deal with that, you know. So create space, hit, choke somebody with your legs.
I think that in itself is like motivation to be like, man, I want to take a personal, you know, self-defense class.
It's so empowering because like I used to have these such a funny story. I used to have these dreams where I was convinced that I didn't know how to throw a punch. So in the dream, like I would go to throw a punch and it would be like super slow and it would like miss. And it was like, and then I had, because of these dreams that I had over and over again, just like randomly, I was convinced that if I had to throw a punch, like I don't think that I would be able to. Like I think it would be like that. And then I started doing this and I was like, no. Like I actually can throw a punch really well. So everybody better watch out. Like it was really empowering. And then to learn how to move your body and to move somebody else's body. Like, I don't think we know how easily it is to throw a human. Like I had Jen's man, right? He came in and we were working together and he was like, whoa, as like I just threw my partner right over my shoulder. He was like, oh, you're a badass. I was like, yes. Also, it's super easy. Let me show you. Like, it's not that hard, I promise. Because like, you know, it's all about like gravity and momentum. And so it's like, you can so easily take somebody if they're attacking you from behind and like grab their arm and just go whoop, right over, you know. It's such a powerful thing to learn that you're capable of doing those things. Even if you don't know exactly like the A, B, and C's of it, just knowing that you're in a better position than you think you are when you're being attacked or something is happening, you're in an altercation, like that you actually do have power and you have like the ability, even if you don't know what you're doing, is such a powerful thing. One self-defense class, like I would say every girl should do one self-defense class, one MMA class, one jujitsu class, like any kind of martial arts that revolves around grappling, I think would be really powerful.
What was one of the best pieces of advice that helped you when riding dirt bikes, whether it was newer or older? I know we kind of touched on this earlier, but was there any piece of advice when it comes to like practical riding tips?
My favorite, which I'm sure Jen could understand, is to charge the corners. You know, the faster you go at the corner, the better your roll speed is going to be through it. And it's like a great way to set up everything because, you know, they always say like jumps are for show, turns are for dough, but that is true. So like the more commitment you can have into charging a corner and staying off the brakes and not using your clutch, because everybody uses their clutch too much. And I say that as I ride a 2-stroke, I should be using my clutch, and I still use my clutch way less than most of the 4-stroke riders out there. But like staying off the clutch, staying off the brakes, on the gas, charging, and then like not a hard brake, because then you're going to stand the bike up. Like you got to learn that fine line between coming into the corner a little bit faster than you're comfortable with, so you can keep the bike a little more laid over, and then just let it glide right through. That's like my best advice. Charge the corner, and then don't slam on the brakes, because when I see people do that, I'm like, well, you know, immediately you just lost like 2 seconds in that corner. Not that I'm counting seconds. I'm not that good. But that is my favorite piece of advice personally, because I love the corners. Like the better I can be at a corner, the better I can be at the rest of the track.
How did you, after taking a break from riding, mentally come back?
Oh, that's a hard one, because I'm still in that. You know, when I broke my hand, I broke my right hand. So that was like a really hard thing to get back into, because it's the throttle hand, and you put a lot of pressure on the throttle hand, and that's a lot of grip. So when I finally felt comfortable to get back on the bike and to be able to have like total control of the throttle, it was really hard to remember how to commit to jumps and how to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. Like luckily for me, like I was still training jujitsu even with a broken hand, because it was a little easier to do that than it is to ride a dirt bike with a broken hand. So I was still able to train that being uncomfortable feeling. But getting on the bike, there was so many nerves. What if I crash and I hurt my hand again? That was the first thing. So learning to kind of quiet that voice and trust myself. Like I have built the skills, and I need to trust that I can do it. That was like the first thing, was I just have to trust. I have to trust. And then once I started trusting myself, then I was like, oh, well, this isn't bad at all. Like, let's do it. I'm still not at the point where I feel like I'm attacking jumps, because I am still concerned with like crashing and breaking my hand again. But like everything else it almost feels better, because I had time off, I had time to think, and then I had time to readdress and really like strengthen those thought patterns that maybe weren't very strong before.
Now, top tip for getting out of your head.
Oh my gosh, what a question. I am the worst at that. I'm in my head all the time. My top tip. It goes back to like my mantra is you just do it. You know, stop thinking and just do it. Anytime I ever follow you over jump, I'm like, just do it. We're going to go. Let's do it. You know, that's like the best thing for me. It's like a good reminder every time I say it, is like the outcome is probably going to be better than I'm assuming. I'm going to not regret doing it. Just do it. Like just go out there and do it. Do another lap. Just do it. Do the jump. You know, I don't know. It's not like great advice, but that's the best I got.
No, I think it's great, because I mean, at the end of the day, going back to what we started the conversation on is those what ifs, right? Instead of letting those what ifs define us, being able to say, well, I'm not going to let it define me. I'm just going to do it. And I am capable. I'm worthy, and I will survive.
I think like turning off, because you have to recognize sometimes your thoughts are dumb. Like the things you're thinking, they're silly, and like you don't have to recognize that, and you don't have to like accept that those are the things you're thinking. Sometimes it's better to just be like, nah, I don't think so. Like I'm just gonna do it. It's not always easy, and I don't always do that. But when I am successful in being able to get out of my mind is when I am able to like kind of take that I'm overthinking thought and say, I'm just gonna do it anyway, and then go out there.
That was something too, though. I really had the thoughts after Cam had done a couple classes. I was like, I need to learn self-defense. Like,
yeah,
you never know. Like, what if you're walking in Walmart and some random person, like, you know, I could throw a kick or like a random throw, but you know, we're just gonna run as fast as we can, and you know, that's all I got. So
it
I
does
feel like
help.
having the courage and the feeling, right? Like it's
yes.
Kind of goes to dirt bikes too. Having the skills, having the techniques, having that foundation, you have them for when you need it, just like self-defense.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think these things go together so well. Like all of that, all of the thought patterns you just brought up, 100%. Being able to be comfortable and capable in these situations, like 100% worth it.
Maybe this is like the new thing is that, every guest that comes on, we challenge ourselves like, all right, in the next 30 days, I need to go take basic self-defense class.
Yeah.
Self-defense class.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Maybe that'll be like a winter to do when there's no riding to be had.
All of a sudden, everybody's going to really just love that sport. They're going to be like, oh, I love jujitsu or MMA. This is great. And all of a sudden, boom, every motorcycle or like mountain biking girl is going to be into it. Because it really it does have a lot of similarities.
It has been incredible having you on and having you back on the show. You were on a little ways back, but I feel like
in the day.
This is Steph like 2.0. And it has been so cool just hearing from you again, hearing your energy, hearing your transitions, and just all about finding that joy and authenticity in your life. And I think you've like motivated me in so many ways and got me thinking about my own mindset and the way that I approach certain things. And I'm sure you're going to motivate and inspire so many other people as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm really glad to hear that because that's all I want.
So I can totally hear it in your voice. You really do. Stephanie 2.0, you are right there. And I'm excited to continue to see your journey and you within the community and riding together in our next woods race when we do that.
Yes.
I know, guys, we got so many challenges and so many things we got to do here. We got to start making a list of all the bucket lists. We'll make the like Radchick's bucket list. Sounds like a good idea.
That sounds like a great idea. I love that.